Days later, Shanique's new body was undeniable. Even she could barely recognize herself. Her waist was slimmer, hips fuller, and bottom perfectly rounded. Shanique sat on the veranda of her small home in Portmore, Jamaica, gazing out at her friends who were laughing and chatting. They looked flawless, dressed in the latest designer clothes, holding the newest phones, and talking about the rich men who spoiled them with sports cars and even mansions. Shanique felt out of place. She wasn't unattractive by any means, but her life was far from the glitzy world her friends lived in. She had dreams, big ones, but the reality of her small, average upbringing weighed heavily on her. Her parents worked hard to make ends meet, and while they were loving, they couldn't offer her the kind of life her friends had. Shanique would watch her friends flaunt their gifts and tell stories about how they met some wealthy businessman at a party, or how they got an expensive bag as a gift from some man. Her friends didn't see the struggle. They didn't understand that Shanique wasn't just jealous. She wanted the same opportunities. She wanted a life that didn't feel like it was always out of reach. "Me wish me could live like dem," she thought, biting her lip as she glanced down at her cracked phone screen. The thought ate away at her. Why couldn't she be lucky enough to catch the eye of a man with money, someone who would change her life? Why did they get to live so freely while she was stuck? "Me need a change. Something has to give," Shanique muttered to herself as she wiped away a tear that had begun to form. One evening, Shanique was sitting with Toya, her curvier friend, who had always been confident. Toya always had the attention of men, and she wasn't afraid to flaunt it. "I can't take the struggle anymore," Shanique said, feeling the weight of her frustrations. "I try my best, but the wealthy men don't even look my way." Toya leaned in, her voice lowered to a whisper. "I know what the problem is. Men today, the ones with real money, like women with big backsides, small waists and large breasts." Shanique blinked, confused. "Are you saying my body isn't good enough?" Toya chuckled softly, the sound of her nails tapping on the table. "No, girl, it's just how the world works. You have to make the right impression. These men today, they're into curves, a big bottom and full chest. That's how they see your value." Shanique's eyes widened. "You mean like surgery?" Toya nodded. "I did the same thing, and you see how I'm living now, right? It's a sacrifice, but if you want that life, that's the price you have to pay. I can help you, but you'll have to save up for it." Shanique sat back, feeling a mixture of excitement and fear. It wasn't an easy choice, but the idea of a new life, the kind her friends had, was too tempting to ignore. Shanique's days became consumed with work, extra shifts at the local beauty salon, and odd jobs for extra cash. She did nails for the women in her neighborhood and worked long hours to save for the surgery. Her friends didn't ask too many questions, just assumed she was saving for a business venture or something similar. The pressure to fit in grew stronger each day. "I see you, Shanique," Toya would tease at the local cafe. "You're getting close to that goal." Shanique smiled weakly. "I still have a long way to go, but I can't wait. I'm tired of seeing them have all the fun while I'm stuck here." She would spend late nights researching BBL procedures, reading stories of women who had undergone the transformation. Their tales of newfound wealth, expensive gifts, and luxurious living painted a picture she couldn't resist. The more she thought about it, the more determined she became. "Soon, I'll have my new life soon," she told herself every day, her heart racing with anticipation. When Shanique had finally saved $1,500, she went to a clinic in Kingston for a consultation. She was hopeful. But when the surgeon looked her over and quoted her a price of $3,500, her heart sank. "I can't afford that," Shanique whispered, disappointment pressing down on her chest. The doctor's tone was kind but firm. "I understand. It's an expensive procedure, but if you want the best results, you need the proper surgery." Shanique left the clinic, her head spinning. What now? She had saved up as much as she could, and it still wasn't enough. When she told Toya, Toya simply smiled. "I can help you out. Don't worry. I know a doctor who works with people like you. It's cheap and fast." With Toya's encouragement, Shanique agreed. Toya took her to Dr. Leo, a known quack in Spanish Town, who promised the same results at a fraction of the cost. The procedure was quick. Shanique felt nervous but pushed aside her doubts. The clinic wasn't clean, but Dr. Leo reassured her it was fine and that many women had come to him before. Days later, Shanique's new body was undeniable. Even she could barely recognize herself. Her waist was slimmer, hips fuller, and bottom perfectly rounded. Her friends were ecstatic. "Look at you now," Toya beamed. "Those men won't know what hit them." The transformation was everything Shanique had dreamed of, and within weeks wealthy men began to notice. They sent her expensive gifts, invited her to elite parties, and took her on lavish dates. She now drove a sports car, wore designer clothes, and lived in a stylish apartment, just like her friends. Her parents were proud, though Shanique continued the lie that her business was booming. She was finally living the dream. But little did she know the price of her new life would soon come crashing down around her. Shanique was now living the high life. At parties, men competed for her attention. Her phone never stopped buzzing. Messages, calls, and invitations to private events flooded in. Her mother smiled with pride. "I'm proud of you, Shanique." "I'm just doing well in my business, Mama," Shanique would say, winking to keep up the lie. She threw money around in stores, buying whatever caught her eye. Jewelry, handbags, the latest gadgets, nothing was too expensive now. She even enrolled her younger siblings in better schools, a dream she had always held. They looked up to her, admiring her success. But beneath all the glamour, something was starting to go wrong. Months passed, and Shanique's lifestyle was on full display for all of Portmore to see. But beneath the glam, things started to crumble quietly. One morning, she woke up feeling a strange tightness in her lower back. When she reached to stretch, a sharp pain shot through her side. She brushed it off. Probably just slept badly, she thought. But as the days passed, the pain grew worse. Worse still, there was an unusual smell she couldn't explain, strong and unpleasant. She started bathing twice, even 3 times a day. Sprayed expensive perfume, used scented oils, anything to mask it. Still the smell lingered. One evening she was out with a wealthy businessman named Mr. Talbot. He had taken her to a fancy uptown restaurant, full of politicians and high society. Everyone was dressed to impress, and Shanique was glowing until the smell started again. She noticed the man beside her subtly shifting away. Then someone whispered something. Mr. Talbot leaned in and asked, "Are you all right, babe?" Shanique forced a smile. "I'm fine." But it was already too late. By the time the main course came, Mr. Talbot looked uncomfortable. He made an excuse and left early, saying there was an emergency call. Shanique knew the truth. Her embarrassment burned like fire. By the next week, Mr. Talbot had blocked her number. One by one, the wealthy men who once chased her began to disappear. No more texts, no more gifts, no more weekend getaways. Even Toya noticed the change. "My sister, what's going on? Are you all right? You look stressed out." Shanique hesitated, but then broke down. "Toya, my body doesn't feel right. I can't explain it. I feel pain, I sweat too much, and I start smelling odd. It's bad, girl." Toya's expression shifted to one of guilt and concern. "You need to see a proper doctor. Maybe the quack man messed you up." Shanique nodded, swallowing the knot in her throat. She tried booking a proper medical consultation, but the cost for correction surgery was outrageous, $10,000. Way more than she had saved. The little money she had left couldn't even cover a quarter of it. Her bank account, once full of sugar daddy blessings, was now almost empty. Still desperate, she returned to Dr. Leo, the same man who had given her the initial surgery. Dr. Leo looked at her body and nodded slowly. "It's fixable," he said, "but you have to pay me $500 up front, quickly, I can handle it." Shanique was hesitant. She had already seen how careless he was, but she had no other choice. The shame, the pain, the rejection. It was too much to bear. "All right, I will do it," she whispered. She took out her last bit of savings and paid him. The day of the surgery, she prayed, "God, please let this fix everything, please." But this time, things went terribly wrong. During the procedure, Shanique's body began reacting badly. She started bleeding uncontrollably. Dr. Leo panicked, but didn't have the proper equipment or trained staff. By the time anyone could call for help, it was too late. Shanique died on that cold operating table, chasing a dream that had turned into a nightmare. News of Shanique's death spread quickly through the streets of Portmore. People were shocked. Some blamed the doctor, some blamed society. But those who knew her best wept. Her mother was inconsolable. Her father, upon hearing the news, clutched his chest and fell to the floor. He died hours later from a heart attack. Now, the siblings Shanique once cared for were left orphaned, with only their grieving mother and the community's pity. Toya couldn't stop crying at the funeral. "I never knew it would end like this," she whispered as she stood beside Shanique's coffin. The friends who once flaunted wealth with her showed up in their flashy cars and expensive shades, but none could look Shanique's mother in the eye. As the coffin was lowered into the ground, the sky grew darker. A life lost too soon. A dream turned to dust. In a world where beauty often feels like currency, some pay the ultimate price trying to keep up. Shanique never lacked beauty. What she lacked was belief in her worth as she was. But when society makes you feel invisible for being natural, even the most precious souls will chase shadows. Rest in peace, Shanique. Your story is a warning. Not every glow-up is worth the darkness it brings.